In this session we are going to look at ledger batch journals. Now there's a couple of very important options before we can even consider processing a batch journal. A batch journal, unlike cash book posting, might not be a day-to-day type of option that you would use. The cash book postings would be transactions directly to the bank. But when you look at journals, a journal is basically an adjustment you make. In other words, movement between accounts. I often say to people that if you don't have a good enough accountancy background, leave the journals to the people, to the bookkeepers, to the accountants, to the auditors who knows what they've got to do here. I'll give you a couple of examples. It is important to remember, before you can process a journal, the debit and the credit transactions here at the bottom has to be equal to each other. In other words, there must be zero difference. Like you can see here, created a little batch here, but I still have a 500 Rand difference. That is why process is not available. If I go and make a change here to one of my amounts, now you'll see process is actually available, and you will be able to process this batch because the debits and the credits are equal. Once again, you've got 12 batches that you can work with while you're busy with your journal transactions. You can select your date, you can select account, a reference, a description. You specify whether it's a debit or a credit transaction. You can specify the tax for that type of transaction, and then if you wanted a ledger note, you can add it. I will go through the options at the bottom as our explanation of the journals continues, so I'll go through that with you, keeping in mind that this is a batch option, which means if I close my screen now and at a later stage go back to batch journals, my information will be here. The information will only be cleared here if you click on process. Once you click on process, the information will be sent to the correct ledger accounts. And that concludes the introduction on ledger batch journals.